నానా
ఇల్లు దాటేసాను తెలుసు మీకు దారి తెలియదు.
ఓ 17 కదా సేవర్ వుడ్.
Sincere expression of the difficulty of being your better self, the possibility of actually changing. And Mike White wrote the first few episodes. He directed several of them. He also wrote the movies Year of the Dog, School of Rock, and Nacho Libre.
I wrote all of them.
Did you really? Wow, I've only seen the first 5, so I
wrote them all.
It's going to be hard for you to calm down with that much work. Wow, that's a lot. Okay. So, when you first started writing the series for HBO, how far ahead did you have to think of what was going to happen to each of the characters, where the storylines were going to go? Do you have to have a whole season mapped out before you can really begin, so you know what your destination is?
Well, usually when you pitch a show, you kind of give them a sense of where the show would be going. I think it's helpful as far as sort of them getting their head around what it is. I was in a really fortunate position because they picked up the show pretty quickly, and Laura was still committed to a movie that was shooting, so we had kind of a long prep period before the pilot started shooting. And because I'd had this experience before in TV where, people are like, oh, we want to be in business with you, and you sell them something, but they really don't want what it is that you're trying to do, and that's happened to me more than once, where it feels like they kind of don't want the thing that you're doing, but they don't want to lose you. So I was like, I really want to just write this season before we get too far down the road with this, so that HBO, if they do pick up the show, they really know exactly what it is that I want to do here, and it'll be fine if they don't want to pick it up, but I don't want them picking it up and then being like, oh, we want, X, and guard dog, even though my agents were like, this isn't practical because, you're kind of doing free work in a sense. It would just make me sleep easier because I just didn't want to be in a situation where I was kind of trying to transform the thing I wanted to do into something else that I didn't know how to do or didn't want to do.
There's another scene I want to play from Enlightenment, and this is a scene from the 4th episode, and it doesn't give away any plot, but Amy, the Laura Dern character, and her ex-husband are going on this rafting trip, and there they meet the guide for this group of people who are rafting. I just want to play him introducing himself to the group that signed up for him to guide them on the rafting trip.
I've introduced myself to some of you. For the rest of you, I'm Rick. I used to write for television. Rockford Files, Mr. James Garner.
Rockford Files.
Kojak.
Great.
Yeah, they took all my ideas. Who Loves You, Baby? That was my line. Did the whole Hollywood thing. But there's a special layer of hell down there. Really sick. So, I'm aboard of the river now. What we're going to do is today...
That's a scene from Enlightenment, and Mike White, I think that scene was so funny, and honestly, watching it, I thought, like, this guy's got to be the real thing. Like, this is definitely a former Hollywood writer who now does, like, there's now a river guide. Who is he?
That character is a version of me, honestly. He's like this like gruff man of the river, which is not me, but there's those moments where screenwriters, TV writers are real put upon, like feel like they've, I think that's the kind of quintessential condition of the TV writer, feeling like they are being pushed around by the powers that be. And so, in those moments you fantasize about, I could move up the state and I'll become a river guy. I'll do some alternate form of, I'll escape from this. And I sometimes I have that fantasy myself, which is like, I'm just gonna open a donkey sanctuary somewhere in a beach somewhere. And so, I thought that would be a funny character to send him down the river.
I want to go back to kind of where we started from, which was that, after you kind of had this stressed out meltdown because of pressures from a TV show that you were writing, you took a break, learned how to meditate for a while, and then went back to work. Now, you've been on the show several times, and we've talked about this before, but you grew up in, a religious family, fundamentalists, evangelicals, and your father, Mel White, ghost wrote the memoirs for Jerry Falwell, Pat Robertson, and other people on the Christian right, and then later came out as gay and really tried so hard to get Jerry Falwell to change his beliefs about homosexuality. I think he failed on that.
I think so.
Yeah, but anyways, a lot of people, when they went through the kind of meltdown that you had, would have turned to a more Western religion. You turned to Buddhism, but not in a religious sense, just like regarding the practices of meditation and studying, just studying, I don't know exactly what you studied, but studying Buddhism. But anyways, how did you know that what you wanted to turn to was something that had more to do with meditation than with something more literal about God?
Well, truthfully, somehow I got into sort of Buddhist sort of self-help books. There's this friend Pam I showed, right? And then from her I would start reading other books. I was just kind of a autodidact or a dilettante, just going through this section in my bookstore.
In Chicago. Waddle's car looking at Dusty's home cooking and the Giants are booking.
వీళ్ళు ట్రై చేస్తారు, ఫ్లైట్లు ఫుల్గా ఉన్నాయి, సో ఫ్లైట్ ఎక్కాక నేను ఫోన్ చేయమని చెప్తాను. నేను ఈవేళ తెలీదు, నా ఈ ఫ్లైట్లు ఫుల్ ఉన్నాయి, వీళ్ళు ఎక్కే వరకు నాకు వెళ్ళడం కుదరదు కదా. వీళ్ళు ఇట్స్ ఫర్ దెమ్ ఇట్స్ లైక్ వెరీ టచ్ అండ్ గో అనమాట. దే మైట్ మేక్ ఇట్, దే మైట్ నాట్ మేక్ ఇట్. సో వీళ్ళు వెళ్ళాక నేను డిసైడ్ చేస్తాను. రేపు ఫ్లైట్లు బాగాలేవు, రేపు సాయంత్రం వరకు బాగాలేవు. బట్ ఫస్ట్ వాళ్ళు ఎయిర్పోర్ట్ వెళ్తారు, దాన్ని నేను ఫోన్ చేయిస్తాను అనుతో. సరే, బాయ్.
Kannauer Park Fire Station.
నేను దింపుతాను, హెయిర్ కట్ ఏం చేసుకో.
My school. Opry. 21-12-21. Opry. చలిగాలి వేసేస్తా. Opry. చలి చాలా చలి.
do, and you hit the wall. You're tired and groggy, but you've got to get stuff done. So take a 5-hour energy. Just open it up, knock it back, and roll up your sleeves. 5-hour energy is faster and easier than coffee, and man, does it work. You'll get the alert, energized feeling you need to get stuff done. A lot of stuff. 5-hour energy, when you gotta get stuff done. For more information, visit 5hourenergy.com.
Waddle and Sylvie on ESPN Chicago.
The Bears are what we thought they were. They're what we thought they were.
Waddle taking his time at bottom play clock. Takes the snap, goes back and throws from behind. Stark Anderson. Ball's passing around. Picked up on one hop. We got a touchdown, Chicago.
The Bears are who we thought they were. That's why we took the field.
Second and 10 for Leonard and the Cardinals. On the 41, he takes the snap again. The hand up, Edger and James. Stuck up the middle by Alfonso. Goes out. And it's picked up by the Bears. Running it. Tillman, 20, 15, 10, 5. Are you kidding me? Touchdown. Defensive touchdown. Number 2. Peter Tillman, 40 yards. 5 minutes to play. And the Bears are back in this thing.
If you want to crown them, then crown them. But they are who we thought they were. And we got them off the hook.
Kevin Hester from the 18. Brady Fox. Kevin Hester in the open field. And Hester picks up another block. Kevin Hester, the punter to beat. He beat him. Kevin Hester all the way.
So I would say that game was probably the most memorable Bears game in the last 10 years. I mean, maybe you can come up with some others, but when you talk about that Monday night game in Arizona and how ugly it was with Matt Weinert leading the way to the Cardinals, and then the Bears' unbelievable comeback.
Didn't Rex Grossman have a 0 quarterback rating in that game?
I think so. And those highlights on BBM, you heard Joniak and Thayer there. And Mike Tirico on Monday Night Football. I listened to it just for, you know what, some giggles. And we'll do that on the air. We'll listen. It's like a 50-second press conference from Denny Green. And he even talks about it in the press conference, or the question was asked in this way. Grossman, I think, had 4 interceptions and 2 fumbles. Think about that. And the Bears won. 4 interceptions and 2 fumbles. And the Bears still won on that. It was crazy. And the most memorable press conference, right, in Glee, Ilya, was Denny Green. We let him off the hook. The Bears are who we thought they were. Want to crown them?
Listen, on that topic, as you've heard me say,
If you want to crown them, then crown them.
Rex Grossman was 14 of 37 for $144 and 4 picks in that game. Pretty solid, isn't it? Look, I'm still expecting the Bears to win Sunday, and as I told you then, I expect them to win in Detroit, and then guess what? They are who I thought they were, which is at 10 and 16. Whether or not that gets you in, we can debate. I think it will get them in. I then believe they will go to Green Bay and have their doors blown off. And then I think you will be in the shuffle your feet, lose your seat mode again, where there's no significant change, and it's more of the same 2013.
Merry Christmas! And then nobody's happy, because you're not happy that the Bears got eliminated in the first round of the playoffs. You're not happy that there wouldn't be change.
Right.
You know, and Dan Pompeo wrote an article today in the Tribune. He's got very good sources around the league. Did you see this about Mike Tice?
I read part of it. I didn't read it on. I love Dan Pompeo as a writer. He's one of my favorites of all time. Good man as well. But did anyone put their name on it? It says many point finger at Tice, but foes say he's not the problem.
And one defensive, I love this, one defensive coordinator said he would, quote, bet his life Tice is not the problem with the Bears offense. Now, listen, there are many, many problems, but I think you could connect Tice to a lot of them, including the offensive line, which he's endorsed a lot of these guys. He knew Gabe Carimi when they drafted him. His son played at Wisconsin. He was very pro Gabe Carimi. He's been very, very much in Jay Webb's corner as he can be the left tackle. So even if you point to the offensive line and say it's bitter cold, Tice is their position coach, or has been, and has endorsed a lot of the guys who have failed. And let's face it, these opponents, they would want Mike Tice to be the offensive coordinator for the next 10 years.
Well, you've asked the question, why would anyone do that? Well, maybe because, yes, gets to game plan against a Mike Tice offense. And Tom Capers said Mike Tice is awesome.
Well, best offensive coordinator he's ever coached against.
Oh, why would they ever change out? Look, Adam Schefter told us yesterday, was very adamant about how no one could coordinate this offense behind that offensive line. And I agree that the offensive line is the biggest issue. But that doesn't allow you to ignore the fact that this team has had no identity and they've had no rhythm, and there really has not been a rhyme or reason to how the game plan has unfolded on a week-to-week basis. I don't think you just put your head in the sand and say it's only about the O-line. That is at the top of your list of concerns, but it doesn't stop there. And I would ask you, what's your level of... Well, it's going to be hard to make a change if the team gets to 10 wins. If you get to 10 wins and don't get to the postseason, different story. That's 5 of 6 years not getting there, but it's still difficult to fire a guy who's got 10 wins. And you look back last year, 7-3 was the record when your quarterback goes down. And Jerry Angelo, you can point the finger at him and say he's the one that thought that Caleb Heaney was the answer as the backup. So it's going to be hard in some ways to make a coaching change. I would only suggest to you, or ask you, what's your level of confidence if Phil Emery says, okay, look, we're not going to let you go, but you do have to make some changes on your offensive staff. Do you think Lovey's going to consent to that, or he's going to be stuck?
That's all I've heard. That Love's going to be a distraction if they keep Lovey one more year and actually make him coach his final year of his contract, where he's still one of the highest paid coaches in the league. No, that doesn't happen often, but still, you can't give a guy new money.
But what if he stumps his foot and says, I'm not going to change my offensive coordinator?
That's where you obviously then have a problem between the GM, who didn't hire the coach, and the coach that you have to make a change.
I just don't know how you could not make serious change on the offensive side of the ball, with Lovey or without Lovey, when that offense has scored 14 points a game the last 6 games of the season, when everything was on the table.
All right, I have a simple question about Phil Emery for you. After Sports Center, here's Sarah Spain.
Thanks, Toby. 9:30. Brandon Marshall and Blake Costanzo both limited in practice yesterday, but they are expected to play Sunday against the Cardinals. Bears hoping to get back a handful of big names on Sunday, including Tim Jennings, Earl Bennett, and Henry Melton. Lance Briggs says their team is confident heading into a must-win game.
We gotta go take care of business. It's our job. We gotta go play, we gotta go win. We're playing for something. So, I mean, I can use a lot of motivational terms right now, but, you know, we gotta win.
College football, BYU bested San Diego State 23-6 in the Poinsettia Bowl last night. Baseball, A.J. Pierzynski has agreed to a 1-year deal with the Rangers. That's pending a physical. In hoops, the Bulls take on the Knicks in NYC tonight, a 6:30 start. You can listen live starting with pregame at 6 here on ESPN 1000. College hoops, Notre Dame, Niagara at 6, Northwestern, Stanford at